thank you very much for coming on this snowy day to our event, the Interconnector state, Hungary as the Central and Eastern Europe's energy hub. So if you paid attention over the last 15 years, Hungary has been pursuing a very pragmatic policy in joining the initiatives that would really benefit the country's stance, not only from the energy independence point of view, but also from the pragmatic geopolitical point of view. Hungary has, not only Hungary didn't pursue immediately the sanction policy towards Russia, but chose gradual diversification over time because significant increase in the moment would lead to massive inflation in Hungary, but also it chose a path of gradual diversification through Turkic countries and through increase of its companies, MOL and MVM, globally. Of their representation globally. So one of those, you will hear many of those projects today. This includes, of course, the Southern Gas Corridor. It includes the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea undersea cable lines. This includes the share of Port of Trieste and many, many others. So I will not go too much into detail, and we'll start with presenting our speakers. Matthias Vajda, who is the research fellow at our Danube Institute, David Biro, who is a senior advisor at the Ludovica University of Public Service. It's Mohamed Mammadov, research fellow from Topchubashev Center, and Nadezhda Kokotovic from Brussels Energy Club, CEO of Brussels Energy Club. So before I go to the questions, maybe I give each of our speakers as well a short 2 minutes to talk in general about the topic, and then we'll go into the questions for discussion. Ms. Nadezhda.
The microphone is okay. So my name is Nadezhda Kokotovic. I'm the director of Brussels Energy Club, and I work in this energy sector, specifically oil and gas, for almost 20 years. And I've been focused on the Western Balkans, on Eurasian broader terms, especially European-Russian relations, but also Central Asian and Caspian region. The Brussels Energy Club is the only discussion platform in Brussels that connects the European Union with non-European countries, because we always thought, the experts that are gathered in the club, that there is always like this missing link of the external perspective to European Union policies, and this is what we were striving to bring to Brussels. And these topics of Central Asia, of other countries, of new transit routes, it's not peripheral anymore for European Union, it's central. And I think that in this topic, Hungary plays a very relevant role. I would say that in some cases, decisive role, because it's on the crossroads of these strategic networks that you can see on this map. I'm very happy that this map will soon look a bit different, because it will have a small branch to the Western Balkans. In the Western Balkans, there's the big historical, let's say, news that Hungarian oil company MOL bought a Serbian oil company, NIS. It's a super modern, big company. And it will also mean expansion of Hungary to the south, in refinery, in retail, and so on. So to cut the long story short, I don't want to take the time of other speakers. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm really looking forward to learn and to hear from the other speakers today. So thank you for invitation, and let's enjoy the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you. I am Mohammad Mamadov, a research fellow at Topçubaşev Center, a Baku-based think tank. We do cover mostly Eastern Partnership region, also recently Central Asia, Middle East, and yeah, everything happening fast. So briefly about how we see Hungary from the South Caucasus. In Central Europe, I would say Hungary is Azerbaijan's most important strategic partner. Of course, energy has recently been one of the main topics on the agenda, not only because Azerbaijan exports oil and gas to Hungary, but also because Hungarian companies are actively involved in Azerbaijan's energy sector. Besides energy, I would like to note two most important issues that are important for Azerbaijan and the South Caucasus countries from Hungarian side. One is Hungary is, I think, emerging gradually as a bridge state, because when we look from the Eastern Partnership countries, South Caucasus, it's very interesting what kind of an order will emerge after ongoing war in Ukraine, when the war ends. After Russia-Georgia war in 2008, we saw Poland and Sweden initiated Eastern Partnership program. Then there was the new order building in the neighborhood, which South Caucasus is a part. And now I think we are looking forward to Hungary playing more active role, and so we can coordinate more actively with our most important partner in the region and in the establishing of this new order. And the second point is, of course, OTS, Organization of Turkic States. Hungary is an active part of that organization, and Azerbaijan is looking forward to coordinate more closely with Budapest, because after 2020 elections in Azerbaijan, President Aliyev in the Milli Meclis parliament said integration and deeper partnership with Turkic countries is now the foreign policy priority of Azerbaijani Republic. So now Hungary is an essential component of that process. So in the shorter term, we'll see more deepening of relations between the two countries. Thank you.
Thank you. David Piro.
Thank you very much. So I'm from the Ludovika University, especially from the Ludovika Center for Turkic Studies. And how could we start this? Because when I try to look behind that kind of topic and also the title, as I see, Hungary stands as a crucial inflection point in Europe's energy architecture. Because for decades, our nation functioned primarily as a transit corridor. Energy flowed through us toward Western Europe as well. But we lacked strategic agency in determining our energy future as well. But that era is transitioning. And I see here three important pillars, which are very important, dedicated to this topic. The first is the infrastructure diversification, because Hungary is no longer dependent on single pipeline and corridors. We are integrating the Southern Gas Corridor through our entry in 2023, and also we are developing maritime access through Trieste as well. And we are connecting, of course, renewable energy system as well via submarine cables from the Caspian region. And secondly, we can also talk about the strategic partnership with the Turkic world, as we also heard about it, because Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkey represent not simply alternative suppliers. They represent a coherent geopolitical and economic sphere in that reshaping Eurasian connectivity. And the third pillar, which I would like to mention it, is also dedicated to the European framework compliance, because Hungary participates in the EU energy diversification within the bounds of our national interest. And we are not escaping the EU commitments, we are fulfilling them through pragmatic infrastructure that serves both European collective security and, of course, the Hungarian sustainability. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Matya Schweider.
Now is it on? So thank you, Ibrahim. Energy is not just physics, it's not just politics. It is an extremely complex system where history, energy infrastructure, and diplomacy, and also our everyday life meet. So that is why the global challenges, the global energy challenges of our era, from energy security to security of supply, cannot be understood through one lens. Mostly what looks like a technical decision often has serious political consequences, and it is true in the opposite as well. So when something appears to be a political decision, it has very real and serious physical limitations. So, in some ways, it is true, of course, to most of the corners of the world, but it's especially true in the Central European and in the Eastern European region, where history and energy infrastructure intersect. In this region, countries do not choose their energy strategies let's say, in a vacuum. They are constantly navigating risks, constraints, market trade-offs. And also, when we talk about energy hubs, energy security, or diversification models, the real question here is not whether there is a perfect solution or a partial perfect solution, whatever that means, by the way. The real question is how system can remain more stable, more flexible, and more resilient under pressure. And this may seem a little bit out of context, but there's a short line wrote by a Hungarian poet, by Ákos Fodor. He was a famous haiku writer, and he was also accepted by the Japanese Haiku Writer Society as well. So it's quite a thing. And this line says, you are free if you can choose what you depend on. And I think this resonates, it resonates with our topic today. So translated to the topic of our discussion is, it would sound like energy security is not freedom from dependence, but the freedom to choose it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So perhaps I go with the discussion questions, and well, let's start with the green line on the map, which is the Southern Gas Corridor. So one of the most comprehensive pipeline systems in the world is the Southern Gas Corridor, which has been built in many stages. It has TANAP pipeline, it has TAP pipeline, and also the systems which are in the West and the East Balkans, and including the connections from the Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan, Georgia to Turkey. So, and the Azerbaijani gas already flows to 16 countries, and this includes Hungary as well from 2023. That was the year when I came to Hungary, and that was maybe I came with the gas shipments. So my question is, given that this is such a strong developed pipeline system, do we see further expansion of this project, both in the supplier countries and also the destination countries? So perhaps David Piro.
Yeah, so it's a very important part of our conversation, the Southern Gas Corridor. And it's also, from my side, it's very important, or it's really hard to, how could we start to understand what does it mean directly? Because we have a couple of pillars again where we can catch this question. We can also have we can talk about the current status of the pipeline, and we can also talk about the future, and we can also catch that kind of question regarding to the Turkic integration part, and also the European diversification as well. Ibrahim, you also mentioned that it's catching 16 European countries with a design capacity of 10 billion cubic meters annually through the TAP complement. And of course, as I also mentioned, that Hungary's accession in 2023 was operationally significant and symbolically important, because it signaled that Central Europe was not locked into the single corridor dependency. And also, another important things regarding this is Slovakia's decision to join the 2024 reinforced this trajectory as well. And if we are looking back a bit, and also we would like to check the Turkic integration part of that kind of corridor, how it's reshaping the cooperation Because, of course, we can talk about independent Turkic countries, and we can talk about this institutional form of the Turkic countries, which is the Organization of Turkic States. And also the field of energy is one of the most important part of this cooperation. We can also understand what's happening with the field of energy in the bilateral field, but is also an important part to check it in the field of multilateralism, because the OTS can share with us a new cooperation, which is covering and also inviting Turkic countries in this club, and they try to follow the questions and the geopolitical importance of the question of energy. But what's analytically important is recognizing that SGC expansion isn't isolated pipeline development, is embedded within broader Turkic world integration, and as I mentioned, the OTS framework is now coordinates energy policy across Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkey, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan as well. And Hungary is an observer in this organization, but we have a lot of projects. We are focusing this cooperation not just like an observer states. We are investing to the energy policy as well. We are focusing to the how can we develop and how can we make deeper cooperation among the Turkic countries if we are looking at that kind of part of cooperation? Because Hungary participates as an observer, as I mentioned, but this coordination layer reduces transition costs for infrastructure development, align investment priorities, and also creates institutional precedent for joint project as well. And the Central Asia-Azerbaijan Green Energy Corridor that was formally established at October 2025, but we will talk about it later, it was also an important part of the OTS, which is established in the 2025 formally summit as well. So there is also a part in the multilateralism when we can understand what's happening with the Southern Gas Corridor and how could those countries focusing on the future of this pipeline, and we can also understand what's happening in the bilateral field as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed.
The Southern Gas Corridor started to send gas to Europe directly from January 2021 to Italy. And today, I think it was last month, Germany and Austria also declared that they will receive gas from Azerbaijan, so making the number 16. And also Azerbaijan started gas supplies to Syria, so diversifying the portfolio of the regions, so shows Baku's ambition, yeah. And how to expand, I mean, I think there are two main challenges here, let's say. The first one is Azerbaijan's ability to find new gas, to supply, because if you need to increase the number of recipients, you need to bring in more gas into the market. So in that regard, Baku has in recent years been trying to find new sources. One is Azeri Tragcuneshli, the oil field under it. BP found some big gas reserves, and there are also other alternative gas reserves that Baku wants to tap into, feed in the Southern Gas Corridor. The second mid to short-term strategies to increase the portfolio of green energy in the local electricity production, so that the freed gas can be directed toward Europe. For example, recently a wind power plant was activated, so it will free about 110,000 million cubic meters of gas to be exported to Europe. So this is a strategy. In terms of seller countries, I think alternative is only Turkmenistan. So how can Turkmenistan send gas to Europe? The first one is Azerbaijan gets swap, gas from Turkmenistan, use it for domestic market, because Azerbaijan's domestic gas needs is huge, 12 or 13 billion cubic meters, it's quite big. So the second option is Turkmenistan will build a Trans-Caspian pipeline. So it needs investment from the European side, which is difficult in these days. And the second option is Russia and Iran are against building of that, such kind of a pipeline. So in that regard, Turkmenistan option is today, it is being discussed, both the United States and the European Union, but we are still in discussion stage. Thank you.
As far as I remember, in 2023, Hungary also became the first country in Europe to reach an agreement with Turkmenistan, and that was a swap deal, but it stopped last year. So because of the complications with Iran's foreign policy during this year, early this year and late last year. So the question also will further, we will see how the situation develops and how this deal continues as well. So the second question I want to ask from Ms. Nadezhda, it's regarding the representation of the Hungarian companies MOL and MVM globally. So could you please give us an overview in that regard?
A short overview. So MOL is primarily oil company, oil and gas company. MVM is electricity and gas company, but both are I feel a bit strange to speak about Hungarian companies in the presence of two Hungarian experts, but I will give you like a concise overview. So these two companies are actually pillar of everything that Hungary does in energy sector. Yeah, if we talk about LNG diversification, for example, buying LNG gas from different markets, it's MVM. If we talk about Druzhba pipeline and Adriatic pipeline, oil pipeline, this is MOL. If we talk about nuclear power plant, it's MVM. Renewable plants, MVM. And these companies, although they are different, they are like two pillars that are closely integrated and they work in synergy. And to be honest, when I was reading about what they do, I was impressed because in energy sector there's a lot of competition and companies are usually not so nice to each other. But in this case, you can see, for example, that MVM was shipping Azeri oil for MOL when there is this crude diversification project. So when I say crude diversification project, basically it's the non-Russian crude oil that needs to become a part of Hungarian energy portfolio. Yeah, because if you look at the European Union energy policy, you can see in all media that there was this big ban on Russian gas and soon on Russian oil, so it's coming. So Hungary, as many other countries, but primarily Hungary and Slovakia, they have this big task to diversify their oil and gas portfolio soon. So MOL and MVM are doing this. And they are doing this based on really, because I mean, these countries have a huge regional presence. MOL has oil and gas fields from Pakistan, Iraqi Kurdistan, Azerbaijan and so on. MVM is present in Serbia and Croatia and Romania, also in Azerbaijan with renewable projects and so on. So they are really using this big network of theirs to diversify Hungarian oil and gas portfolio. One of these attempts is what I was telling before, the big project of buying the majority stake in NIS, in Serbian oil industry. It's very important that MOL is doing this not on its own. MOL is doing this with ADNOC, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. This is a new presence in this region. It's very important because ADNOC is a very developed in technological terms company, one of those with the highest oil and gas reserves in the world, with highest capacity to invest in petrochemicals and so on. So this presence of ADNOC and MOL in this region will be like a big deal in the future development of this region. We also see in this region expansion of other actors. Recently, I mean, basically 2 days ago, it was announced that American investment fund is going to Carlyle is going to buy refineries of Lukoil in Bulgaria and Romania. We also see some other presence, but the landscape in the region is changing big time. It's changing very quickly, and MOL and MVM are are doing everything that is possible, literally, to adapt to this changing landscape. If you look at, for example, sector of gas, you will see that although Hungary is importing a lot of Russian gas, it still has a lot of interconnectors with all the neighborhood countries, so that actually it can import the gas of different origin, including gas from southern gas corridor, but other gas that is on the north-south European, let's say, gas corridor. And the same is being done also in the sector of oil. Yeah, I think that we will talk about this a bit more in the following discussion. But what I want to say that these countries are, very strategic, these companies are very strategic, very pragmatic, and they are making very prudent decisions when it comes to their future and their strategic risks. Yeah, so I would stop here.
Thank you very much, and maybe Mr. Mohammed as well.
Yeah, Azerbaijani context. It's very impressive that after 2020, Hungarian companies entered Azerbaijani market. MOL was got 9.57% in Azeri-Çarag-Cüneyşli, largest oil field in Azerbaijan, quite a big number. And it got a stake of 8.9% in Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, the longest and only oil pipeline that bypasses Russian territory in the region. So first oil cargo shipments started in 2023 March. So the oil goes from Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan to Ceyhan port in Turkey, and from Turkey's Ceyhan port all the way to I forgot the name of the port in Croatia. And from there through Adria pipeline all the way to MOL refineries in Slovakia, Slovnaft. So yeah, it was a significant development back in 2023. And when it comes to MVM, it also signed a memorandum of understanding with Azerbaijan SOCAR, supplying 100 million cubic meters of gas. Not a big number in the beginning, but later in 2024, MVM got 5% stake at Azerbaijan's region's largest gas field, Shah Deniz. And after that, we saw that last year, another memorandum of understanding was signed, this time 400 million cubic meters for 2026 and 2027. So what was more significant is that in Azerbaijan, MVM and MOL cooperated in a project that the MVM would supply the oil it found in Shah Deniz to MOL refineries, again using the same transit infrastructure, and it would add 2 tankers of oil per year to MOL's again oil exports from Azerbaijan's ACG to its refineries in Slovakia and Hungary.
Well, thank you very much. So it's clear that so we can see a web established that's slowly expanding within this context, which includes the countries from which Hungary also imports its oil and gas. And from the Turkic world context, I also know that MOL is working on the refinement of oil in Kazakhstan as well, and its extraction as well. And Hungary imports oil from Kazakhstan, gas from Azerbaijan, and from Kazakhstan it either comes through the pipelines or from Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, or through the Caspian pipeline consortium, and then later on through the sea route. And here the sea route is interesting because if we think about this representation, for now it's more Eurasian representation, but it's slowly becoming more and more global, because there is now Africa as well, with Egypt and other countries involved where MOL and MVM is represented. So sea route also becomes important. And here the question arises about the share in the port of Trieste. So perhaps My question is to Matthias Vajda. So could you please give us maybe a bit of introduction to the port of Trieste share of Hungary, and could those shares that MOL and MVM has globally play a role in further energy diversification and role in further Hungary becoming a potential hub?
Of course I could. There's a historic relevance for the port of Trieste, and but beyond that, the oil which leaves the port of Trieste enters Europe mainly through the Transalpine pipeline, which it moves north toward Austria, and then Germany, and then with a branch to the Czech Republic. In the sense, I think it seems obvious that Trieste is already one of the key maritime oil access point in the region, but primarily for Central Europe. From Trieste, Europe receives globally traded seaborne crude, typically Middle Eastern, Caspian, also North African grades, including lighter crudes, medium and heavy blends as well. So its main value lies in primarily in flexibility and, of course, optionality. For Hungary, the interest in Trieste starts with a very simple infrastructure detail, because we are a landlocked country. So Hungary's system, we can see that Hungary's system is still heavily dependent on fossil fuels, and maritime access still remains strategically important. Yes, and one more thing about geography. Yeah, it is a geography-related thing. Is that if we look on the map, that we can see that the port is significantly closer to Central Europe than the northern ports. For example, Rotterdam. This matters in energy logistics, but we have experienced in our own life that the distance means time and cost as well. So all in all, the project is expected to be completed. I mean, related to the capacity problems, it will be completed towards the end of the decade. So it is visible that it is a long-term investment rather than a short one. So I would frame it in short as a way of thinking differently about connectivity, expanding Hungary's and the region's room to maneuver over time. So yes, optionality is power. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, another and quite innovative project which goes actually to green energy, and Mr. Mohammed a bit mentioned about this, but I will specify the question. So Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania and Hungary now are constructing the one portion of the largest green energy project in Europe, which is the Black Sea undersea cable line. And later, this was also agreed to include Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan into this project, making it even larger. So I will give a question to David Biro to introduce us the project, to tell us about Hungary's role, and perhaps if Hungary can become also a green energy hub for Central and Eastern Europe as well from this project. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we are at the point of the renewable energy, and it will be very important to understand Hungary's structural role in this distribution, because this cable will originate in Azerbaijan, and of course it travels the Black Sea and make landfall in Romania. And from Romania, power distribution enters Hungary's electricity transmission network. And this isn't incidental geography, because Hungary functions as a critical distribution hub for the renewable energy entering the European grid from the South Caucasus success. And that's the time when we should mention the MVM's part, because MVM is, as the Hungarian transmission operator, participates in the Green Energy Corridor Power Company, the joint venture entry established by Azerbaijanis, Azerenergy, and the Georgian state electrosystem, and Romania's Transelectrica, and Hungary's Mavir, which is the Hungarian transmission system operator. And this is not an observer status, as we see again. This is a participation, because this is equity ownership and operational management of the entire system architecture. Because when 1.3 gigawatt of renewable electricity reaches the European side of the Black Sea, Hungary's transmission infrastructure physically aggregates the power and distributes it across Central European grids like Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, and also Austria. And all that kind of way will be an important part when we would like to understand Hungary's position dedicated to the renewable energy part. So maybe that's why how can we understand that, how can we describe the structural part of the Hungary's position dedicated to the renewable part, especially the Black Sea cable.
Thank you very much. Well, David earlier worked in the representation office of the Organization of Turkic States in Budapest. That's why you can see lots of details regarding the Organization of Turkic States. And I do agree. Hungary, although is an observer state, its projects and investment size is on the size of the member states, and even more than some. So perhaps, Mr. Mohammed, you can further add to the green energy side.
Yeah, so it started with like the project is 1,200 kilometer undersea high voltage electricity cable, and it will carry some 1 gigawatt of energy from Azerbaijan's wind and solar parks, both onshore and offshore. But as you said, also with the potential to join Central Asian, Uzbek, and Kazakh renewables. So Azerbaijani strategy is, I think, clear. So it's a combination of Gulf, mostly investment with Chinese technologies, the cornerstone of Azerbaijan's renewable strategy. And the goal is Azerbaijan wants to emerge not only as a pivotal player, this corridor, oil and gas, but also a green energy. But I like what Daniel Yergin said. This is not energy transition, but energy addition. So yeah, it's not only green, but Azerbaijan still is the main player in oil and gas, geopolitics, but also green recently. So there are three major highlights about the prospects of this energy. The first one is the feasibility studies have been completed and presented in COP29, organized in Baku in November 2024. And then 4 countries, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Hungary, and Romania, established a joint company to coordinate their moves, because there are a lot of this legal approximation, regulatory approximation, this stuff. So this company will coordinate the moves of four countries. And I think the most important one happened in December. EU Commission gave project of mutual interest status to this project. It means that it will be much easier to attract financial involvement of both private and other stakeholders. So yeah, right now the project is expected to be completed by 2029. So I think it is the date most countries adjusted their green transition goals. Yeah, it is 2030. In the case of Azerbaijan, it's 30% electricity coming from renewables. The same in Europe and other countries. So it's close to that. And but I think we would agree that many will depend on the ongoing war in Ukraine, because it's Black Sea. And even in the Caspian Sea, we have been seeing that some Ukrainian attacks covered Russian facilities in the Caspian Sea. So both seas are part of kind of a broader theater of war. So it creates some kind of an uncertainty. But the most important part is that all 4 parties who agreed on this project are moving forward with institutionalization and new agreements. So the future looks bright.
Thank you very much. So As you can see, so even the stance of Hungary on the green energy policy is rather the pragmatic one. So mostly, although Hungary is being criticized regarding the green energy policies, but currently the largest European green energy project is set to be built until Hungary. And further,
Sorry, I don't want to but a very important point regarding this, because at December 2025, there was also an important meeting in Istanbul dedicated to the OTS energy ministers, like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan formalized a strategic partnership agreement for the development and the transmission of the green energy. So it's visible how is it important to all the Turkic world, that kind of renewable energy part.
yes. No, thank you very much. Thank you. That's very important. So perhaps let's move further. So Hungary is a major importer, of course, of the Russian gas right now through the TurkStream pipeline, and that's the pink one, which is on the map, that goes through the Black Sea. So due to sanctions, of course, all of us know that many of the European countries have decided to sharply decrease their imports from Russia, although many times evading those sanctions through LNG imports through the third parties. So given the changing geopolitical environment and with the possibility of ceasefire in Ukraine, do you believe in potential revival of Russian energy supplies, maybe directly through the existing pipelines, because pipelines are cheaper rather than having a third partner through LNGs? So my question is to Ms. Nadezhda.
Thank you for the optimistic question, but this is exactly what we need, a bit of optimism. You said Hungary is a major importer of Russian gas. It is when we look at the things from the country's perspective. Yeah? But if you look at the European market, Europe imports around 300 billion cubic meters per year of gas, and the volumes that go through TurkStream to Europe via Bulgaria, Serbia, are around 16. So it's big for this region, but in European terms, it's not. The rest of the Russian volumes that are coming to Europe are coming indeed from LNG, including Russian LNG, which is also sanctioned. So it's having a lot of difficulties with technology, with infrastructure, with logistics, with moving LNG around. So it's also a tough time for that industry. So all in all, to summarize this, so the Russian gas is around 14% roughly of what comes to Europe today. So if we ask ourselves the question, can it rebound in case of ceasefire or something? I see like two issues here. First one are internal problems. We also noticed when the European Council was voting on this ban on Russian gas phase out. Hungary and Slovakia were against it. France had an opinion, separate opinion, and also Bulgaria. So there is a certain number of countries that are really not happy about this, because it would affect the economies of Hungary and Slovakia, but also not only those two countries, but also Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, because these two countries, I think Serbia has like one contract with Azerbaijan for 400 million cubic meters per year. Bosnia doesn't have even that. So if something happens, if the ban happens, so for example, at least one country will be in big trouble. Yeah? Hungary has a strategy, a good strategy how to import LNG and the pipeline gas from other sources. But then we come to another issue in the case of a ceasefire and some optimistic scenario here. The countries that are now exporting LNG and pipeline gas to Europe, like Azerbaijan, like Qatar and US, they invested a lot into that. That's not a cheap sport. Yeah, these projects are long-term. They're very capital intense, to put it nicely, and they require a lot of logistics, a lot of energy to actually make them work. So how this would work from the perspective of these countries, whether the Russian gas would ever be allowed in larger quantities, I'm not sure. But in any case, we are in a situation where countries are increasingly forced to choose sides. Also, they would prefer not to. Obviously, most of the smaller countries would prefer to just have lower costs and lower prices of electricity and gas and oil and oil derivatives for their population, for their industry. We saw that with this, with the expulsion of Russian gas from Europe, the gas and electricity prices have gone up. The European competitiveness went down. So there are certain consequences to certain decisions. Yeah, this is how the economy works. But I think that in today's world, 2 years, and this is approximately how much Hungary and Slovakia have to completely change the gas supply. 2 years in today's world is a lot. I don't think that any analyst can, or even a good fortune teller can say what will happen in the end of 2007 with this, situation where you have some kind of black swan event on a daily basis. So I think that the strategy of these countries is that they prepare to the maximum in case the gas is cut. So there are many alternatives, quite well prepared. But then I think we'll see at the end what will happen.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. And Matthias?
Okay, so here I would like to describe Hungary's role, or more like an approach, primarily from the gas perspective, because compared to oil, Hungary is far more embedded in the European gas pipeline system. Hungary has a huge internal gas system, which is around 5,900 kilometers long. We have a relatively large storage capacities compared to the size of the country. It's around, I think, or concretely, yeah, it's around 6.3, I think, yeah, maybe. So we have an extremely well-built regional interconnector system. We are interconnected to most of our neighbors, except one, Slovenia. But in 2023, there was signed a memorandum of understanding, and potentially hopefully we will be linked to the Italian system indirectly, and then from that we will be linked to the North African system, especially the Algerian system. Hungary's natural gas consumption is around 8.3. It's around 8.3 now, 8 and 8.3. But in the recent months, because of the cold winter, there has been some increase. So in this year, it will be probably, this number will be higher. And also we have some domestic production, which covers almost 1/4 of the annual consumption. Now it's around 2 BCM. So about the TurkStream, we buy gas from, if we want to lock in a regional approach, we buy gas from Austria, from Romania to some extent, and we have maritime access, from the Kirk LNG terminal as well. So what is interesting here is most gas flows comes from the TurkStream. I think it's obvious, and it has been also mentioned. But most importantly, these flows do not stop at the borders of Hungary. and do not stop in the energy infrastructure of Hungary. It goes to the direction of Slovakia and also to Ukraine indirectly. So since the Ukrainian transit has effectively stopped in the 1st of January in 2025, Hungary's position has changed completely. So now it's not just a consumer, but also it got into transit-like or hub-like position. And why does it matter? This matters because the European gas market is liberalized. This means that the gas transport is tariff-based, transparent, and relatively easy to track. So looking ahead into the future, the supply side is changing rapidly. LNG volumes to Europe are increasing, driven by the US, the Middle Eastern, the Middle Eastern capacities. So, and in addition, one more important thing. There's the interesting Neptune Deep, Romanian Neptune Deep project, which is basically about the Romanians have found some gas reserves, some gas fields under the Black Sea, and they are planning to bring it on the surface and then sell it in the European market as well. And surprisingly, the only way that they can succeed in this is through Hungary. So this will also elevate the position of Hungary. And to tell you some numbers, these volumes are around 4 BCM. So to 2027 and 2028, these volumes will reach the European market if it is delivered in the scheduled time. So what I want to point out here is potentially, I think all these, what I've mentioned, this will contribute to a situation of a relative gas abundance, and this is likely to put downward pressure on prices over time. So today, the volume transported through the Hungarian gas system, pipeline system, is around 17 BCM. To have some comparison, in 2024, it was around 15. So I think this is what exactly defines a transit or hub-like position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very detailed answer. Thank you. So another pipeline that's coming to Hungary is the Druzhba pipeline. Well, it's important to note here it's not only the Russian oil, but a portion of Kazakh oil also comes through this pipeline. And furthermore, in parallel to the pipeline, a terminal is being built in Hungary with the participation of Kazakhstan to further increase the Kazakh oil imports. So my question is that could this pipeline play greater role in European supply of oil from Kazakhstan, or this role will be played more by the port of Trieste? So question to David Biro.
Thank you so much. So maybe we should start this question from Kazakhstan at first, because as you already mentioned, the Kazakhstani oil is already flowing in Europe via Druzhba pipeline, because Kazakhstani crude is transiting through the Druzhba pipeline toward European destination, because I have a couple of data from 2024, 2025, which just shows German imports of Kazakhstani crude via Druzhba reached 1.1 million tons in January-July 2025. Is a 38% year-over-year increase from 2024 baseline. And the Kazakh government has publicly announced intention to increase Druzhba shipment to 2 million tons annually by 2026-2027. And if you would like to catch that kind of question from the Hungarian perspective, we have a very important milestone. It's August 2025. This is the first trial shipment from Kazakhstan, because in August 2025, the Kazakhstan shipment its first 85,000 ton batch of crude oil to Hungary. And logistic operation was extremely interesting because it started from the Kazmunai gas, arranged the shipment from Kazakhstani fields, and it's loaded the crude onto the tanker Alatau, routed to the vessel through the Caspian Sea toward the Russian Black Sea port. Specifically, it was Novorossiysk. And from Novorossiysk, the tanker transited through the Turkish Straits and the Mediterranean toward the Croatian port, and right after, also catch the Croatian part, Slovenia, Austria, into Hungary. And the crude reached the MOL's Százhalombatta refinery in Hungary, approximately 16 days from Novorossiysk. So it was also a very important trial, because the trial shipment demonstrated to the entire supply chain its functions, because maritime transport, port handling, pipeline distribution, and also the refinery intake. And this creates baseline data for the scaling, of course, that. And if we see the future of that kind of cooperation, also the Druzhba pipeline, we see that it works. So we can also develop that kind of part, and maybe Hungary can also part of that kind of important hub for using that kind of part of the energy diversification.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mohammed?
Yeah, my colleague covered most part of it, but yeah, maybe Azerbaijani point, because after Russia's invasion of Ukraine started in 2022, we saw that Russians started to create some problems for CPC pipeline, and Kazakhs started to reroute some part of their supplies through Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline. Right now, the question is, can this increase? But there are some challenges on that. One is physical. Kazakh oil is high sulfur, and it's not suitable for Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. And another one is it's expensive. CPC pipeline is way cheaper. So, and most recently, Novorossiysk port was hit by Ukrainians, and CPC compressor was hit. So it all shows there are problems associated with the Kazakh increasing exports to Europe. But again, from the probability of them diverting to Azerbaijani route was very optimistic in the beginning, but right now it faced quite some challenges. But at the same time, Kazakhs have to build some vessels. They have to buy vessels for transporting oil from Aktau port to Baku. And at the same time, they have to increase the capacity of Aktau port to do that. Again, they have to build a new pipelines to that port. So it all are right now the challenges. Kazakhs have been working on that, and there are talks with Azerbaijan, but still there are some way to go in that direction.
I see. Thank you very much. So basically, given the geopolitical realities, those projects are actually complementary, both Druzhba and Port of Trieste, and they will basically work both together further to strengthen Kazakh's oil's position in Europe, depending on the geopolitical reality further. So the last question I want to ask is to Ms. Nadezhda. It's given Hungary's close engagement with the Western Balkans in multiple levels, including the energy sector, I want to ask, how can we describe Hungary's current and future role in the region's energy landscape?
Hungary's role in the Western Balkans is getting increasingly important, and we could see that in many examples. But the key relationship in that region is between Hungary and Serbia. Serbia is the largest country of this region. So we could see the example like last year when Serbian oil market was under big pressure and threat because the only refinery was sanctioned by the US, by OFAC. So it stopped working in October, and this is where Hungary stepped in with supplying more fuel, more diesel to Serbian, primarily diesel, to Serbian market over several months, so that the needs of the population are covered until the refinery started working It was last week, I think again. So the market is normally supplied again until the deal is finalized between MOL and Nice, so that the refinery will become Hungarian by the end of March. So that is one thing. The other thing where we see the cooperation is that Hungary and Serbia are building an oil pipeline between Hungary, the border of Hungary and the refinery in Pančevo on the north of Serbia. And this way Serbia will be connected to Druzhba pipeline, so it will have access to the other types of oil that we were just discussing, but it will also decrease dependence on JANAF, on the Adriatic pipeline and Omišalj, because sometimes there were issues in that area. So it's good for Serbia also to have to diversify the crude oil supply routes. I was already speaking about the MOL ADNOC refinery purchase, so I won't repeat myself. But another area where Hungary stepped in for Serbia is, we heard that Hungary has more than 6 billion cubic meters of gas storage. Some of this storage is rented to Serbia because Serbia has only 500 million cubic meters gas storage, so it's not really enough for the country. So this is where Hungary is covering part of Serbian needs. And last but not least is the electricity market. We saw that MVM bought two companies, electricity companies in Serbia, in Vojvodina and in central Serbia. But also it's very important, and it's sometimes overlooked. It's the Hungarian electricity exchange, HOPEX. This is the referent exchange for all the Western Balkans countries when it comes to electricity trading. So you can see that we are relying more and more to Hungary, on not just on oil and gas, but also on electricity. And I believe that certain interconnectors are being built in electricity sector between Hungary and Serbia. But also the issue that I think is not very much spoken about, and this is my personal expectation, MOL and MVM, but specifically MOL is very developed company in technological sense. It has a very quite well developed decarbonization strategy. It's the requirement of the EU. Yeah, so the refinery are soon not going to be refineries only. It will be like clean energy and mobility hubs and so on. And in this regard, MOL is doing a lot of projects on hydrogen, on biogas, and waste treatment. So using waste as a feedstock for non-crude oil feedstocks for refineries. In other words, a kind of a biofuels. So this is something that the Western Balkans don't have. It will be very important that this new knowledge and technology transfer comes to the region via MOL. Of course, MOL is also building, it's finishing building the modernization, let's say modernized part of the refinery in Rijeka, close to Omišalj port. And this is also a big thing for the region, because more cleaner white oil products are going to come to market. That way MOL will have 4 refineries in total, and all 4 will be on quite high level of development. So if we're talking about Hungary as a future energy hub, I would say that at least for our region, for Central and South Europe, it already is an energy and technology hub. So I hope that these smaller countries, and I'm a citizen of one of them, so I really also, this is my personal hope, will become like younger partners in this technology development, which is important for the future of the region.
Thank you very much, and I do totally agree. If Well, as you mentioned, that for Western Balkans specifically and Central and Eastern Europe, Hungary is already an energy hub, and it has further potential to discover, especially I believe in the Western Balkans region. But for now, perhaps I will open the floor for the questions from our audience. And yep, if there is any questions, please raise your hand, and we will take. Oh, Miss Melissa wants to.
I'm sitting here listening to all this really great conversation about people planning for energy needs. And I'm wondering, when I read what's happening in the UK, what must the poor, sane people in the UK be thinking when they see what's going on here, what's going on in this region, and what they're doing to the cost of energy in their own country? I'm just stunned. Don't know if John wanted to comment on that.
Not on that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're in Brussels. There are some countries that don't have as good a planning as this. What do they think when they see what's happening here?
I think that my perspective that this is not in the focus of Brussels a lot. This region, this cooperation, because the European Union has several really big economies that have different kind of problems. What I see as maybe as an issue when it comes to the European Union and other countries is the specifically in gas sector, for example, it's the imposing environmental standards of European Union to other regions. I noticed while traveling, I was in China, I was in Japan in the last couple of years, and I noticed that other regions are not really accepting this well. Other regions, I think, are more sometimes pragmatic, and they make decisions easier, because in European Union you really have to find compromise with 27 countries. It's not always easy, and you have to compromise a lot on certain issues. So that is one thing that I think should be taken into account for the future. We already see an opposition from certain countries on that, Qatar, US, but also like the issue of long-term contracts. I think this is also something that President Aliyev was speaking about when I was in Azerbaijan 2 years ago. Like European Union would like to get a bigger capacity of the Southern Gas Corridor and all these important gas pipelines. It requires investments, it requires a lot of planning, but for producer country there is not always a guarantee on the side of the European Union that this will pay off in 20 years, because gas is seen as a transitional fuel. So I'm saying all this just to make a point that the energy field is very, it's like a systemic thing where you have to juggle so many factors at the same time. Yeah, and in Europe particularly, there's a heavy decarbonization policies, like the most stringent in the world, the most developed, and on the other side you have countries that are, that have different concerns, different issues, different problems. So I guess that I know that the UK is the most complicated. I was studying energy policy in the UK university, so I know that these are very specific policies, not always tuned with the European Union. I mean, in the internal market. So I guess there are different issues there as well. Yeah. So.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, Mr. John?
Thank you very much. I really want to follow on from that. It seems to me that this is a fascinating discussion. of a very serious attempts to create a very, well, actually quite a complex set of arrangements to enable this region to prosper if things go badly elsewhere. And of course, one of the major one of the major things to which they're responding to is the war and the sanctions regime. But if we look at what's happening really as we speak, first of all, there is the American takeover of the Venezuelan oil industry, which means that it seems to me that the Americans can turn on that tap and turn it off whenever they feel like for some time. Secondly, we don't know what's happening tonight, but nonetheless, let us suppose that there is an attack on Iran of a serious kind. That is going to introduce, I would have thought, short term at least, that would exert a downward pressure on oil prices in the market. But there is at least the real possibility of changes, I suppose. I'm not predicting any particular thing here, in which Iranian oil would be more readily available and sanctions would be withdrawn. There is thirdly the real prospect of some kind of peace in between Ukraine and Russia, and which would, I think, have two effects. One is, I don't think the sanctions regime against Russia could continue to be in force, which presumably would induce some response in arrangements you're talking about. And the other is the Western powers, Western Europe in particular, is now pledging to, and we're talking about this on Thursday, by the way, when we discuss Ukraine, European policy in Ukraine. The European Union is arranging a very significant infusion of about $800 billion to redevelop Ukraine, all of which will have, some will have downward pressures, and some will have a pressure to increase the oil, or decrease oil prices and increase economic growth. So, when these changes occur, and some of them will definitely occur or have occurred, what is going to be the response of the markets you're describing and the very, very ingenious and careful arrangements that have been made? Will they float upwards from this, or will they come under increased pressure?
So if anyone would love to answer. Mr. Mohammed, perhaps you?
Okay.
Well, just a thought. So
okay, it was yeah, about Venezuela. I think it will take time to bring that oil to the market, and a lot of costs. Even if the US is committed to that, which I think even under current circumstances, it's quite an uncertain environment where the things will go from here. About Iran, I'm not an expert of Iranian energy policy, but it's about 2.5 billion barrels of oil, and most of it goes to China, and taking it out. Again, I think market is quite immune to these kinds of shocks, and they quite adjust quickly, and there is no sudden disruptions in that regard. So again, my general overview is that I think we do not expect sudden shocks in that regard. Again, in the case of Venezuela and Iran, but I don't know. Maybe my colleagues can build on.
Ms. Nadezhda?
Well, I agree that with Mohammed that the global oil market is very well supplied. And I don't think that it's very immune. I don't think that there will be big shocks. That's one thing. The other thing is that the markets and oil and gas are very defragmented now. So the world now and the world 4 years ago, these are completely two different worlds. You can see that China, India, and Russia have one sort of cooperation in this field, which is not really visible to the financial monitoring of the West. Let's call it like that. So we can see that there is deglobalization, and also in the BP strategic outlook for the next period, it is expected that the markets will become more and more regional in the future. And the energy sovereignty, energy security, and this really hardcore interests and security interests will be at the forefront of all the concerns in the future. And when it comes to sanctions, I was watching some webinar of some Russian institute recently, and I learned that they don't expect that sanctions will go away. They are adapting to the sanctions in a way that is going to stay. So this is their thinking, and they're investing and doing all the infrastructure and logistics changes with the view that sanctions will stay. So this is the situation. Yeah, the world of energy has changed, and it will change in this direction: less global, more regional.
Mateusz?
Yeah, just one more thing. Just it might seem a little thing, but I think this might fit in a larger picture. For example, if we want to see how the oil prices or gas prices going down or go higher, I think we should see the trends which are on the table. So, for example, the renewables. We often hear that the age of fossil fuels are coming to an end, for example. So in the 80s or in the 70s, maybe in the 70s, engineers were told that we will run out all of the fossil fuels. But we were talking about oil and gas markets, and then we started to talk about gas and oil market, and now in Europe, for example, we don't even want to talk about them. I think that's interesting. But now we know that we are aware of that thanks to technology, we know that physical scarcity won't be the problem, for example. The problem will be the energy transition, which is not a problem, actually. But it is happening. It is happening not because of the fossil fuels are disappearing, but because renewables are gaining more systemic and economic relevance. Okay, I just wanted to mention this because many things are on the table. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have something to add, David? No? Okay, maybe I can add to this. So the Venezuela was because of oil, and Iran is regarding gas, and something that unites both of these countries. They are large exporters of energy to China. And the US national security strategy is particularly focusing on basically breaking the supply chains over which China has the dominance right now. I believe that, and it was announced after Venezuela takeover, it was announced that the oil will be sold on the market price level, because Venezuela was selling oil much below the market price level. I think, I think it's much harder with Iran, and this is a much larger issue because it can even lead to a civil war. I cannot predict how things can evolve, but if we basically make the assumption of market level price, then I don't think it will affect the current infrastructure that exists in Central and Eastern Europe, because on the market price level, bringing, let's say, Venezuelan oil, let's assume, to Europe, it is just cheaper to import through Central Asia and Azerbaijan or the existing pipelines, because pipelines are the cheapest way to import oil and gas. unless, of course, there is another question. If US decides to make the price of the newly taken over oil and further gas much cheaper to have a trade war, let's say, with China and Russia. That's when situation changes, but that's a question for long term. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I think we are very close to the end of time. I might take just one more question. Yes, gentlemen.
So it's about the Eastern Mediterranean region, the offshore developments, recently discoveries and developments. I am curious to know the European point of view and what kind of prospect this region can offer to the European energy security. Maybe for Nadezhda.
I cannot say that I'm super focused on that region. I know what's going on. The problem with that region, it's on the table for many years. It's not in Brussels. It's not new. I remember discussing it in the Brussels Energy Club like 10 years ago when the first discoveries of this Leviathan field and so on were made. What I know now is that Israel is making exploration and production of its field, but mainly for Egyptian market, which is increasingly having an increase in demand. When it comes to Europe, it's the question LNG or gas pipeline. Yeah, there is this EastMed pipeline, gas pipeline that was we talk about this for ages. It's very expensive. European Union, and that's one of also the problems, is European Union does not support construction of gas pipelines, hydrogen pipelines, yes, but old-style gas pipelines, especially submarine. I don't think it's going to happen. So yes, it's a talk in town, but it's been for many years. So I wouldn't bet on those fields for European market anytime soon.
Thank you. I don't see any addition. So thank you very much for coming today. Today we discovered that Hungary already is an energy hub, and there is lots of potential to further discover how it can intensify its role as an energy hub for Central and Eastern Europe. As you can see on the map, there is already existing quite strong infrastructure on the pipelines and the new ones to be built together with the green energy project. Thank you very much. I would like to take a round of applause for our speakers.